मुकेश जी जरा रामेश जी को बोल दीजिए यूट्यूब पर उसको कर देंगे।
बोल दिया सर, वो कर रहे हैं बस।
We will begin and when it goes on YouTube. Okay. So friends, thank you very much. And good morning and good afternoon, depending on your time zones. And yes, in Malaysia, it is still good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining us. Let us begin this program on learning analytics in education, which is very exciting a topic, including the World Economic Forum and the other agencies also are laying more stress on learning analytics and big data analytics and those fields of dealing with big data in a way. So at the outset, I welcome all of you. We have our Director CELE and Director IQAC, Professor Amur Padwat with us. We have our Chief Speaker, Dr. Simon Peter Kafui Aheto from University of Ghana. So at the outset, may I request Professor Amul to brief us with his initial remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. On behalf of Ambedkar University, Delhi, and Internal Quality Assurance Cell, and on personal behalf of Professor Sharma and myself, we welcome you all to this second offering from the series in which Dr. Simon Peter Aheto will be speaking about learning analytics. We have all been using some kind of online pedagogy in our teaching and learning work, but probably in a peripheral or marginal way. But thanks to this corona pandemic disruption, we have been moved to online pedagogy on an unprecedented level. But there are also lots of very interesting aspects of this online pedagogy that may be very useful for our work, and learning analytics is one of them. I believe in today's session, we will get to know how to make sense of lots of things that happen online. When we are teaching our students, when we are conducting synchronous and asynchronous sessions, when we are interacting, when we are using multimedia resources, in all these, a lot of data is generated. In our normal face-to-face classroom, we often try to judge what is happening by looking at the reactions, responses, body language, behavior. And that tells us a lot about what's happening how. There are similar analogous things online also. And I think we will today have some ways, some means, some tools of making sense of how we make sense of our online pedagogy. So without standing too long between you and the speaker, I would request Professor Ramesh Sharma to take the proceedings in his hand and proceed with the session. Thank you and welcome everyone.
Okay, thank you, Professor Amulji. And now it is time to introduce our good friend, Dr. Simon Peter. Before that, I want to make an announcement. There are 100 seats available in Zoom. We are already full. So may I request, if you know some people who are trying to join us, kindly request them to go to YouTube now. I will, after my introduction, I will put the message into the WhatsApp group also. But in the meantime, if you have some of your friends, then you can, and I request kindly, so there are some friends who are quite excited and trying to annotate the screen. Kindly hold on, you will get the opportunity. Okay, so our friend, Dr. Simon Peter Kafui Aheto, he teaches at the Department of Distance Education at the University of Ghana. Mukesh ji, kindly see, someone is adding so much color to our event. So, yeah, okay, thank you so much. He has been in the field of distance education for around 2 decades. Dr. Aheto is an educationist and information technologist who has distinguished himself in his area of expertise. He holds a doctorate in information technology degree and a postgraduate diploma in education technology from Cape Peninsula University of Technology and the University of Cape Town, both in Cape Town, South Africa, respectively. He has visited Germany, and there, see what a lovely dress he is, and the passion about his country, representing my country, that even if it is there minus 10 degrees Celsius in Berlin, he still loves the, the dress, the colorful attire of the country there. And he went there for his research work, which includes learning analytics, distance education, rhizomatic learning. You may like to ask him, what is rhizomatic learning? Very recently, he contributed a very important chapter on blockchain in education in my book, and gender issues in education. He has been, sharing his knowledge with already our faculty in India. You can see it here. He was a few years ago, he addressed some of our faculty members into it. Recently, Dr. Aheto led and facilitated a flagship training program for all senior management and senior staffs of the National Youth Authority of Ghana. And some weeks ago, we must congratulate him. He has been appointed as a member of the University of Ghana e-learning quality control committee. And he is indeed passionate about his profession. You can see that he is reaching up to the sky. And with that enthusiasm in top gear, now he is ready to rock our today's webinar. So with this introduction, maybe I request him to appear online among us. You can switch, and I will stop sharing my screen so that he can project his screen now. Over, Dr. Kafui.
Can you see?
Yes, please.
Can you see the screen?
It is coming up.
I believe you can see the screen now.
It is yet to appear. Hi, Funmi. Yes, we can see it now. You can bring the first slide.
Sorry.
Yes, we can see the opening slide now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning and good evening, depending on where you are on the continent. I wish to thank the university for this opportunity, and I wish to also thank Professor Sharma for this great opportunity to share some insights on learning analytics with you. So as much as possible, I would want us to pay attention, and then we go through this one. So I am Simon Peter Kafui Aheto, and Prof, thank you again for the elaborate introduction.
That involved some research on you.
Yes, it's really a surprise. Yeah, so thank you very much. Okay, so I want to begin. This is the bigger question I want us to have in mind. How can learning analytics be achieved? How can learning analytics be achieved? So we'll try to answer this question by the time we are done with this presentation. So I have a question. I want you to have a look at this picture. And the picture says that for a first selection, everybody has to take the same exam. And the exam question is, please climb that tree. Please climb that tree. That is the exam question. And we have a number of animals there. We have the monkey. We have the penguin. We have an elephant. We have fish in a pot. I believe that is a whale. And then a dog. And then the teacher is saying, please climb that tree. Do you think this is a fair question? This is a question that will yield the desirable results. So what Einstein is saying is that everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. So one big thing about learning analytics is about the questions we ask. And we will go through it, and then you realize that learning analytics has a lot to do with algorithms. So if you ask the wrong questions, you get the wrong feedback or undesirable feedback. Okay. So, some minutes. Okay. So this is the question we want to answer at the end of this presentation. So there are a number of questions we keep asking ourselves. What do we teach? What do we learn? So depending on where you stand, either a teacher or a student or an institution, I believe we ask these questions almost all the time. How do we teach? How do we learn? Do our teaching and learning have impact on society? I believe we ask these questions all the time when the issues of unemployment comes up. How do we measure our teaching? How do we measure our learning? How do we use the results from measured learning? So we ask all these questions, but forgetting about one key issue. What about the data? How do we keep the data uncontaminated? Test results, student behavior that affect their learning. How do we manage these things? So this is an interesting picture, the one then by Jean Piaget in his office, and you can see a lot of books, a lot of learning. He is really a learned person, a lot of learning, a lot of research. This is his office. And you can just understand that if we are talking about big data, this is a very good example to show all about big data. I mean, if we are talking about them, you realize that this man is really having a lot of data, and once he processes it, it becomes information. But now we can have all these books and all that in a very small device, in a very small equipment like pen drive and all that. So what I'm trying to say here is that when we talk of big data, it's a number of things coming together, data from all fields, all angles coming together, but in a connected way. So I will not want to spend time on big data because the presentation is on learning analytics. But if you really want to define big data, you can define big data according to the volume, that is the size of the data, the velocity, that is the speed, variety, value. So for learning analytics, it is very important that you value the data that you are getting. That is why I said contaminated data would not do us any good. If you don't ask the right questions, you do not get the right answers. And even the venue of the data, where you are getting it from, where you are going to store it and all that, they all have implications, okay? And the validity, that is the quality, data governance, and then the management of it. Data should not be accessible to everyone at any time. Data must be controlled depending on who has access to it. Okay, so big data. So we always hear about personal information, personal data, and if I ask you to tell me some of your personal data, you'll be able to give me a lot, from your age and all that, your height, your complexion, and a whole lot of data that we will call personal data. And then when we come to health data, you can also tell me about some of the infections you've ever had, your health, your weight and all that, and how they impact on your well-being. And then we can also talk about economics and business data. So once I'm talking about data, then I'm also talking about how to analyze these data. And that is where we have this coming in. That is data analytics, how to analyze the data. And it's not just about analyzing the data, but you also having some kind of interpretation of the data. Data doesn't really make sense if you don't put sense to it. It doesn't make any sense. Data doesn't make any sense, but it depends on the questions you ask, and it even depends on what you want to use that data for. And one of the things I would like to mention here is that action, that is the decision making that you would undertake from the interpretation, is also very helpful. Okay, so here we will also talk about educational data, and I think our interest is in educational data. But today I'm going to give you a difference between educational data and learning analytics. So now you have a broader picture about big data. So big data, it's about interconnected data from various fields, and it depends on its value, velocity, that is speed, and other kinds of things. So educational data, what is educational data? When we talk about educational data, and in fact, that is what we always usually talk about, even when people are trying to talk about learning analytics. So the educational data focuses on usually the organization, the organizational issues, data related to our education. But this can also be subdivided into two. That is the academic data and then the learning analytics or academic analytics, and then the learning data or learning analytics. So I told you, wherever you see the data, then it means the issue of analysis comes in, and that makes it the learning analytics. Okay. So educational data, and our focus will be on learning analytics. So academic analytics, learning analytics. So this is from the All India Survey on Higher Education, IQAC, and you can see that, well, I know for sure that India is having about 993 universities as we speak. So this data is, I mean, up to 2016, and as at 2016, India had categorically, I mean, 799 universities and 39,000 plus colleges. Okay, this does not qualify to be what we call learning data or analytics. It could feed into it, but this is talking more about the educational issues. So it's talking more about educational data. So it falls under the academic data, where you talk about enrollment and all that. All right. So this is also another example. And you can look at the number of universities and also the number of colleges as to their enrollment figures. So for instance, you realize that from 2014-2015, the colleges started to overtake the universities. But from 2012, that was not the story. That wasn't the story at all. And from 2012 to 2013, you realize that there were more universities than colleges. But as we speak now, there are more colleges than universities. But in 2017, 2018, you realize that the gap was closed. Okay. So this one falls under educational data, specifically academic data. So what then are we talking about? We are focusing or going to focus on learning analytics, which is one leg of educational analytics. And educational analytics is also one of the legs of big data. What is learning analytics? What then is learning analytics? What then is learning analytics? So, according to Siemens in 2010, he described learning analytics as the use of intelligent data. Very important, use of intelligent data. That is learner produced. Learner produced. So the data must be a learner's data or data about the learner, and analysis models to discover information and social connections and to predict and advise on learning. That is according to Siemens. So this is about 10 years old, and that's to tell you that learning analytics, well, I wouldn't say learning analytics, it's new, but maybe the term may look relatively new. But in my country, when I was in the primary school, we used to have what we call the cumulative record. So all issues concerning your learning, your grades and all that will be entered into the cumulative record. And then if you are someone who engages in sports, cultural activities would be also entered there. So That is like a report in a booklet from your primary one, grade 1, to your junior high school. Yeah, so according to the International Conference on Learning, Analytics, and Knowledge, which is one of the aspects of, or it's a conference that actually belongs to the Society for Learning, Analytics, and Research. They also define learning analytics as the measurements, which is a keyword, measurements. So garbage in, garbage out. Collection, analysis, and reporting of data about learners and their context for purposes of understanding and optimizing learning and the environment in which it occurs. So the issue of learning analytics, it's a whole big topic. It's a whole big field. And as I said, you need to ask the right questions. So for instance, if you want to take temperature and you are using a tape measure, are you likely to get the desired results? You get results, but will they be desirable? Can they be useful? Can you use them for, can you use them in making decisions? Okay. So, yes, let me also mention that with big data, data may be structured or unstructured. Okay, so still under learning analytics, the data is very key, so that the sources must also be kept well. So it's all about student learning and how it will help them to perform very well. So data sources, some of the data sources. So all these data come together into what we call the data repository. So the data sources, we can talk about student information systems. And well, these days we can talk about data management systems in most universities. And I know India has a lot of management information systems for their institutions that actually manage students' data. And we also talk about learning management systems. And during this COVID, people now found the usefulness of learning management systems. And that is also another source of data that can help in learning analytics. Use of university services, for instance, the use of university hospitals, university library can also help you interpret what students are learning, how they are going about this learning, and all that. I will soon call you. Yeah, so student cards, social media, student success, and all that. So in effect, the interaction between the learner or the student, here I mean the same thing, learner and student, within his learning environment, that actually impacts on whatever he learns. So when these data sources have been discovered and data has been harvested, the right questions ought need to be asked. And once they are asked, they can help the way we design our courses, the way we sequence our courses, how students become, how students are prepared to actually learn to also achieve so many things. And then even in terms of admissions. So all these would help our educational data. But for us, we are more interested here on learning analytics, how it will affect student self-awareness, how it will affect the student in terms of personalizing his or her learning. Yeah, I saw a hand up. Maybe I will just get to a point and then listen to you and then continue. Learning analytics, by my own definition, is the use of learner-generated data. You cannot go outside the learner-generated data. Very key and very important. And how it is or can be analyzed to positively influence learning. So here we are not interested in negativity, but how students can achieve learning. Sometimes, well, I don't know for you, but I believe a number of people have gone through some educational systems or teachers who may say that, well, for me, I'm going to fill this number of people for this semester or this term or whatever. It's not good, and it is not something that learning analytics actually encourage. So when I talk about influence, then I am talking about what I call the puller. So positive influence should be about predictions, understanding of what is going on with the learner, how the learner is learning, how the factors that influence this, and how the learner can actually leverage upon his learning, maybe with technology and all that. And then in terms of advice, career guidance, career guidance and all kinds of advice that will help the student, guidance and counseling that will help the student achieve greater or higher, best performance. And it's also for reporting purposes. All right, so the elements of learning analytics. The elements of learning analytics. I've been talking a lot about the data, because that is the key thing here. So the data source is very important. So demographic, academic data, learning activities, the context, the finances of the learner or the student. All these will help the learning algorithm, the algorithms to be able to actually help the learner improve upon his learning. And it will help those who are helping the learner perform better, understand the situation. So here, the first picture up there, we talk about the data as the raw material. And then the analysis is where the algorithms, the right questions are asked. And what is critical is the action that you take. So as I said, when you use a thermometer, trying to measure the weight of someone, you get results. You will definitely get a value. But is that desirable? Is that desirable? So the critical pathways to improve learning outcomes comes under the action that you take. So here you will find the action here under the dashboard. So it will only give you feedback, and then you would have to make meaning out of that. So this is an example of a learning dashboard. And this is a typical learning analytic dashboard, which looks at learners' engagement. So for instance, this learner says refresher workplace health and safety. So views, he's viewed this particular link 1,240 times and made just 4 posts, made 20 submissions, and the latest time, the total time spent online is there, just on this one. These details, this information that has been processed through the right questions or through questions through the algorithm tells a story. So what is the student focusing so much on? He's focusing on the first one, refresher, workplace, health and safety. Now what about the list? Multi-language sample. He's not really made any posts, no submission, but has just viewed 121 times. What may be causing this? So obviously this tells you that the student is much more interested in workplace issues, because you see workplace bullying, and he's made 6 posts there, and then 24 submissions and all that. We can also talk about the product suite overview and so on and so forth. So again, we have graphs, visualizations here, which makes things easier for people to be able to interpret what is going on. So from 2017, you can see how the student has been engaged month by month. And from December 2017 to January 2018, the student has been did a lot of viewing, But up to March, I believe when the semester was ending, the student stopped viewing, or it was going down. And then when you come to enrollment per course, you realize that it is beautifully displayed here in a pie chart. Again, in terms of student progress, this dashboard makes it very easy and makes it very easier for the student or whoever course advisor to understand the student better. Why? I mean, there is progress at some point and there is no progress. So for instance, when you look at workplace health, or when you look at the applied analysis, you can see what is actually going on there. And then when you look at the workplace bullying. Okay, so this is just one of the examples that I want to share with you. And this is also another example. So it also helps you to get a visualization. And when you look at time spent by learning here, left top corner, the second picture, for 1 year, the student spent a lot of time doing learning in April as compared to April 2017 as compared to February 2018. I guess that was when the semester was going down. Okay, I wouldn't want to spend so much time here, but this gives a very good visualization on learning analytics. So the dimensions of learning analytics, we have the stakeholders, we have the instruments that you use for the measurement, and then you have the constraints up there, and then you have the objectives, and then the data. So briefly, as I said, data is the key thing, and data may be open or may be protected. And when you are engaging in learning analytics, you really need to be open. Students need to know which kinds of data they've allowed you to use and which kind of data they've allowed you not to use. And then the objectives, you really need to define what you are going to use that data for and what you actually need from them. And in terms of the stakeholders, the first stakeholder is the learner. Then the teacher comes in, then the lecturer comes in, then the institution, before government and other institutions. But as I said, there are so many issues that must be looked at. Who should have access to which data? And then when you look at the constraints we can talk about the internal limitations and then the external limitations. So internal limitations may have to do, general limitations may have to do with policy, and I will talk about that in one of the slides. So policies, the norms, and all that of the institution, of the country, and of the collaborators, in case you are collaborating with other institutions and all that. Okay, so the instruments, so the technology is there, the infrastructure is there, the algorithm where you ask the right questions, and then the theories. Theories here actually give the framework as to why you are collecting the data, your philosophies, your beliefs, and all that, and then other issues. So here, for example, when all these elements or dimensions have been looked at, we take, for example, pedagogic behavior, how students behave in class. So if it goes through these dimensions, it actually predicts the probable consequences as to how students are going to behave or perform. Okay, I will just give a short break, some few minutes for us to take attendance. So, Prof, I hope I'm allowed to give a short break for attendance.
Yes, friends, I am posting the link. This is the link for your attendance, and kindly input your data with correct spellings of your name, your institution, because we will use this data which you input now for the certificates. And we are sending this link to the YouTube communication also. So please save this link, and this attendance link will remain open till the end of our session. Okay, so it's only 2-3 items it is needed. It is not a lengthy one, only your name, your email ID, and your institutional name. So kindly provide your data into it. And we have sent this link to the YouTube channel also. So, okay, Professor Kafui, you can continue now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. So please try and get yourself in the register. Okay. So what are the opportunities? Any opportunities? Yes, benefits of learning analytics. So these are some of the kinds of analytics we have. So, but before I look at the kinds of analytics, learning analytics we have, I want to talk about some of the benefits. Please, you can write your questions in the in the chat room. We will address them. So it helps learners to personalize their learning and take ownership of their learning. It actually increases learning. And then, I mean, when I talk of learning here, it's in context about quality learning, potential for reducing attrition rate. Sometimes our students fall off without us knowing that our students are even off a course, especially if we are handling large class sizes. It also enhances cost-effective management and helps the prediction of learners' performance. So when things are not going well, right from level 100 or from the first year, you would be able to help predict, and give some support. And then it also has the potential to reduce unemployment. I say it has the potential to reduce unemployment because sometimes learning analytics help us to really redirect our focus in terms of which kind of courses we should bring on board and which kind of areas we will need in future and all that, so that we just don't continue producing people in the humanities or for medicine and all that. Okay, so there are four key learning analytics. In fact, there are two key ones. That is the descriptive learning analytics, which you can see at the bottom there, and then we have the predictive one. These are the two key ones, but I will give you up to 5. So the first one here is about the descriptive analytics. And here, these are the questions we ask. What happened? So after the processing, after the algorithm has done its work, the feedback that comes, the results that we find, these are the questions we ask. What happened? So we try to describe, we try to give our understanding of what actually happened based on the rules, policies, and processes. So that only gives a kind of information. So here we say that it's about hindsight. Then the diagnostic analytics, learning analytics talks about why did it happen? So you do a further probe. Why did this happen? You need to get insights. And in fact, predictive analytics also gets to look at the insights, and predictive also looks at the foresight as well. So what will happen? So predictive, it's about what is going to happen. What will happen now that the scholars or the student is not attending lectures, or is not even opening this site and all that, or is not logging in? What can happen to these students? How can we make it happen is the prescriptive, so optimization. Mind you, one of the key reasons why learning analytics is important is to help optimization, leverage on technology to help better performance. So, yes, so the fifth one that I want to add is the applied learning analytics. And the question we normally ask here is, how can the content adapt to suit the student? So applied. So this is where the action comes in. So when all these things have been done, when reports have been generated and described, and then the visualizations have helped us through the alerts and the recommendations and trends, we now try to relate our results to, help the student adapt to learning. So these are the questions and these are the types of learning analytics available to us. So any challenges? Yes, I wouldn't pretend not to know about challenges, So some of the challenges are unclear or lack of policy guidelines. Data is very important, and if you don't collect the right data, you cannot use it. So most of the time we attend webinars, we hear about it, and we just want to implement. But what is the source document? There should be a policy. So it should actually come from government and then institution. So if government is not having, I think institutions are allowed to make some policies around some of these things. So for us in our country, I know we have policies on data protection and all that. So if you are developing policy for learning analytics or management of data from learning, you really need to find out what the data policies or laws around data, what those laws are about, what do they say, what do they allow and disallow. So lack of leadership, buy-ins and support. Sometimes leadership thinks that, well, this is also another way to give too much power to the ICT people, to the educational technologies and all that. So leadership buy-in is also very important. Without that, it becomes a barrier. Lack of expertise and poor outsourced learning management system agreement. We are very much quick to go into agreements with companies and then get LMSs and then use those LMSs. But sometimes we really don't read the agreement very well, and it makes it very difficult to use our own data. Cost implications is there. Distribution of educational data across the stakeholders is also limited. It's also a big limitation. And then in terms of response time, when reports are needed. And then another important one is mismatch between learning goals and data collected. This often happens when the wrong questions are asked the right questions will never get to us. The infrastructural issues. Any ethical issues? I'm just getting to the end very soon. Any ethical issues? Yes, according to Slade and Prinsloo, they talk seriously about privacy and confidentiality. And again, Slade and Tate did a work for ICD, International Council for Distance Education, and they gave 10 issues, and they all border on ethics, and it's about ownership and control. Who owns my data? I'm a student. Who owns my data? What is the transparency policy? What is the accessibility? How accessible are students? How do they have access? What access is given to students when they need their own data? Okay. And then the institutional obligation to us and their act, and then their responsibility, validity and reliability issues. Cultural issues are things that we cannot underestimate, communication and consent. Okay, so I'll make the slides available. And then the big question is back. How can learning analytics be achieved? So, my proposal, leadership is very important. Policy is key at national and institutional level. The right questions must be asked. Data should be collected. And what kind of data, the kind of data that should be collected must be known. What it will be used for must be known. When should the data be collected is very important. Who can access that data? How should that data be processed? It's very important. How is it going to be processed and even stored? Where is the data going to be stored? How long should the data be stored? You cannot just be collecting data without answering these questions. Stakeholder engagement is very important, because if parents, stakeholders don't understand why you need to do learning analytics, they would be impediment. The finance office should understand why, so that when you need the money, they can quickly release it. Networking is very important, because you may not have the expertise, and it is very important to network in this 21st century. Capacity building for staff is very important, and the infrastructure to do this is very important. So data issues are very key, and these are some of the suggestions or some proposals for implementation. So these are some references. On this note, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you here, and I am ready to have your questions, and then we share. Thank you. You have a video here which you can watch later. We'll share the link.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kafui, for this very innovative presentation. There we will see now the questions which have been asked. In the meantime, I remember Mr. Raju wanted to know about intelligent tutoring systems. So would you like to answer to that? And after that, I will add something to it.
Can you come again?
And you can stop sharing your screen also, so that we can have the big picture of our participants into it. Okay, the question was about intelligent tutoring system. Let me tell you something about it. Actually, if you see the information technology and information systems, there we have various kind of information systems. An information system consists of various things like hardware. You need some hardware. Software. I give you simple example of ATM machine. In ATM, there is a hardware, the machine, and then software on which that machine will work. Then you need people who will manage that, either in developing the software or in procuring it, marketing it, using it as a user, something like that. Then we need procedures, the policies governing whole of the information system. So these are called as broadly information systems. Now, these information systems are of in terms of their importance and hierarchy of various kinds. For example, on the below, the highest level, the biggest spectrum of that goes to transaction processing systems. Those things where a certain transaction is processed, where some people work. For example, in the banking system, the transaction processing system. You use Google Pay, you use PayPal, you use India Pay. There are so many things to pay it. That is a sort of an information processing system. Above that, and here the people, they work directly with the system. Above that, to the transaction processing systems comes the MIS, Management Information System. Here the senior management, in of the level of management, managers, deputy managers, something, executives, they come. They take decision, they manage the things. They know that how to, take care of their things. And on the top, it is DSS, Decision Support Systems. They are the top authorities, say like president, vice chancellor in a university, registrar in a university, those things, because they are involved in the policy making, your board of management. It goes into decision making systems. So similarly, we have intelligent tutoring system. The intelligent tutoring system is an example of expert systems. In expert systems, say for example, you tell the machine, like Mycene was the first expert systems in the field of medicines created some 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, that way. Don't think that artificial intelligence is a recent phenomenon. The artificial intelligence is the field which has been since Alan Turing made the intelligent machine. Since then, the only thing that there were limitations, there were challenges, the computing power was not to that extent, and nowadays we have the quantum computers developed by Google last October, and it has been found to be so powerful that we have the powerful machine as of now in the world. They are called as the supercomputers. India also feel proud. India also have a supercomputer named as Param, because we requested United States and United States did not give it to us, thinking that the Russians will steal their technology. Our own great scientists, they said, okay, nothing doing. We don't give a damn to your technology. We will develop our own machine. And feel proud that our scientists, they created Param supercomputer, which again now was in so much demand that initially we were asking other countries. Now we are giving it to other countries that way. So these supercomputers, to solve a problem, if they may take 10,000 years, the quantum computers, they have proved that they will take only 200 seconds. 10,000 on one side and 200 seconds on one side. See the power of quantum computers. Although IBM took a stand that, oh, okay, don't worry, our machine will also solve it within 2.5 days. But still there is a big difference between 200 seconds and 2.5 days that way. So the intelligent tutoring system is that kind of system in which you can make a Google search on Professor Ashok from Georgia Tech Institute of Technology. Here, he created an intelligent system. He was teaching his computer science students, and professors in foreign countries, they have teaching assistants with them. And more students came to his class. He was already having, say, around 5 teaching assistants. He needed one more teaching assistant. So he brought with the name of Jill, the another Jill. I think that was the spelling of that. The Jill as the teaching assistant. For 6 months, for 1 semester, all the students, they taught with Jill. They completed, they sat in the examination. They passed their examination. At the end of the semester, The professor called all the students to come to the hall so that they can be introduced to those teaching assistants. So the professor was there, all the 5 teaching assistants were there, the students were there, they were introduced. And somebody asked, sir, where is the 6th one? Because we studied with Jill, where is the Jill? And then you will be surprised. And it is not a some science fiction movie of Terminator kind of something. It's the real thing. Make a Google search on that. At that time, he told that there is no person. For 6 months, a computer program has taught you. A computer software taught the people for 6 months, and nobody could imagine within those 6 months that they are interacting with a computer software. And you will laugh at it that some people, some of the students, they were more embarrassed who had sent a dating messages to Jill, inviting her that, okay, let's go out, have some coffee and something like that. So, but there are various kind of intelligent tutoring system in which the software does. I can give you a simple example of Duolingo. That is a mobile app, Duolingo. You can download it. It is available for Android and iPhone operating systems to learn as another language, any foreign language you want to learn that. It tells you that what you know on the basis of that, how does it take care of that. So this is about it. Now back to our
yeah, Prof. So thank you very much for the detailed explanation. So what I want to add to it is that intelligent tutoring systems actually looks at customization and personalization as a way of giving personal feedback. So it's customized. It looks at differences, learning differences, individual differences, instead of looking at a whole class situation. So that is what I want to add to it. But Prof has given a very detailed information on that.
Yeah, thank you. And let me recapitulate what Professor Kafui has covered in his presentation. Is that we as a teacher, we teach, and the students as the student, the capacity of learners, they learn something. What is needed in the current time when everything has gone online, particularly due to pandemic, but even otherwise, if pandemic is not there, the Google teaching assistants, Siri is there, Cortana is there, so many things they have come, and they have appeared in our educational institutions also. What is needed in this current time? 2 things, badly needed, urgently needed. We need to be better learner. We need to be a better learner to learn effectively things, because everything depends on our learning. And second is we need to be a faster learner. The faster learner in the sense like the Formula 1 car. I showed you the photograph of Kafui sitting in the car like Formula 1 racer, picking up from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour within 3 seconds, like that. Why it is needed? Because information is changing very fast. Right now, you know something at the end of this time, maybe around now it is 7 minutes past 4 o'clock. The world has changed a lot in the meantime. Maybe the programming language which you knew has been replaced completely with something else. So things change. And that's why we need to be a faster learner. Keep on learning very fast. And this learning, whatever we are doing, is a result of the students' inner and outer exchange with their own thoughts, as well as their tutor, their companions, and the learning environment. And these, on the way of these interactions, the natural inquiries, they arise to consider the efficacy, efficiency, and the quality of learning resources, the learning processes, outcomes, as well as some other issues. Say, for example, the learner's attitude, their engagement, their performance, their behavior, their attrition, or cheating in the examination, or collaboration. All these things, they generate a lot of data. All these things, they generate a lot of data. Let me tell you, we are using Zoom now. in the business version of Zoom, it gives us the learning analytics. There are softwares. You may be knowing that the massive open online courses introduced by Andrew Ang and Daphne Kohler. The people were asking them, sir, on online education, cheating hoti hai, and how can we control that? You know, they have developed those kind of softwares. Even if you keep your camera off, like we have our unique fingerprints. No two fingerprints of the same people are matched. These are unique to each one. Our teeth, the dental impression, unique to every individual. Similarly, they have found that our typing is also unique to every person. And they have that software that when you are typing your answer on the keyboard, if Vijay Kumar Gupta ji is appearing in the examination and he has requested Baria or Mahesh Ganigar ji कि भैया मेरा exam आप दे दो, the software will catch you. It generates that analytics with you. On the Facebook, we are sharing so much information on social media about us. It captures whatever. If you think that you posted something, you were unhappy with Modi government and you said something, after half an hour you thought that नहीं गड़बड़ हो गया, ये तो लोग आ जाएंगे, या आपने वो क्या है वो महाराष्ट्र में शिवसेना खिलाफ बोल दिया तो वो आ गए आपको पीटने के लिए, and you thought that okay, let us delete that post, delete that image. For you it has been deleted. For Mark Zuckerberg it has not been deleted. Believe you me, on social media, on internet, anything you do, any click is recorded. Even a single click is recorded. Why they record it? To generate data. And from that data, they make analytics. They want to stick to the social media because they have to sell their products. So what they will do, suppose Madhurima ji has not been on the Facebook for a longer time. And say Jyoti Huda will upload a photograph. So the software will prompt Priya Gupta that you are uploading a photograph, you tag your friend into it. Now, once the friend has been tagged into it, and the message will go to the friend. Now, friend will tempt it to say, oh, mera photo aaya, let me see it. The software has been successful. You are defeated because the purpose of software was to bring you back to the social media and make you stay longer. So they will show you all kind of information. If you start looking on videos on your Facebook or social media, next time those videos, they will appear to you. Why? Because they have now understood how you are doing that. And similarly, our learning management systems, if you are using Moodle, if you are using Blackboard, if you are using Sakai, I think Kafui showed you certain screenshots. These learning management systems, they also generate that kind of analytics. These are very useful for us because with the help of these, we can understand that whether our students, they are learning, whether our learning objects, learning outcomes, which we formulated for our course, whether they are being followed or not, whether the students, they are able to achieve those things or not. These things, that's why, and to handle with this, and believe you me, if you ask anything in the insurance sector, there are certain sectors, these people who are data scientists, they are very much in demand because those people, everyone has data. By the time we are born, till the time we die, the data keeps on accumulating with us. In terms of we have our memories, that's also a data. You know, the sequences, first you have the data gets converted into some sort of information. The information, when we use it, when you give it value, it becomes knowledge. From the knowledge, it becomes the wisdom, the ultimate highest, we gain the wisdom from the insights. From the insights, we build the wisdom. So from simple data, the stage gets transferred into the wisdom. And that's why, like the Nirvana, the Mahatma Buddha, he attained the enlightenment. That is called as the wisdom. By having look, he was the prince. There was no problem to hit. But when he was going out of his palace, he saw some people dying, some people poor, some people suffering from that. So he got from the data, he made certain information that converted into knowledge, that converted into insight. Insight gave him the wisdom. That's why this field is very important. And those of you who are tempted to go into this field, I suggest that please go ahead. Don't think that it is the field of numbers and you are afraid of mathematics. It is not that good. I think my good friend, Mr. Prakash from Malaysia is here. He can tell you very well that there are certain now, how to do it. If you want to go into how to do it, Hadoop technologies, HADOOP, or nowadays the modern languages like R, Python, they also help you, and they are simple languages. Don't be fear of the programming language. If we say that, oh, we have to learn programming language, it may be super complex. No, nothing. Somebody asked Bill Gates that, sir, what is your hobby? As of now, when I think he is around more than 60 years. I don't know whether what is his actual age. I don't know, but he told that his hobby is when he is free, he likes to do programming in BASIC. Nowadays, nobody studies BASIC. You start with C or C++ or Java, but he still loves doing programming in BASIC. Beginners all-purpose symbolic instructions code, those the full form of basic language. You simply used to tell the computer, print hello world, and the message goes either to the printer or to your computer screen, those kind of things. So go search for these things, and there are many free massive online courses also where you can learn about R, Python, Ruby. There are many of these things which allow you, and data scientist is very important thing to learn about it. Okay, so I think if there are any more questions, then Dr. Kafui and me, we can take.
Yeah, someone asked a question about slow learners, and I would want to answer that question. You see, one thing that learning analytics does is that it caters for all kinds of students, even visually impaired students. You will get data to help them to learn better. So slow learners, it will look at how long you've been on a system. So if it's we are talking about a dashboard or a learning management system, it will look at how long you've been there and what activities you've been doing, and it will help predict how you should do your learning. So learning analytics is all about asking the right questions and getting the right feedback. And that is the algorithm that we talked about. So you don't really need to do it by yourself, because there are people you can always follow. I mean, there are communities where you can always get people to come and support you. The most important thing is you having that leadership, you having that idea that you are going to get this done, you having that idea that once I'm going to get this thing to be done, then the policy follows. And once this one is done, I think we will help our learners better, because like Professor Sharma, most of us believe that students have been suffering too much. Students have been suffering and we have to leverage on technology to minimize that kind of pressure on students. So I'm one of the people who think that students should stop suffering, and then we help them learn better so that we can also reduce unemployment rates and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kafui. Thank you for the beautiful explanation. Let us see, you can surf the chat messages if there were more questions.
Hello, I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead. And in the meantime, we have posted the link for the feedback also. You can submit the feedback about the session. Okay, please go ahead.
I just want to inquire about this data analytics, doing the process of doing analytics. It's a very good presentation you have made. I just want to find out, is there specific software someone can use to do analytics?
Yes, actually there are certain visualization softwares. The most simple I can tell you is about Google visualizations. You can check that. Even that, because that comes with free. Otherwise, if you can, the simple one which is available on most of the people who are using Office productivity tool, the Microsoft Excel also is very, very powerful tool. It can allow you, if you know how to do that, then it also, you can, through the pivot tables, through the formulas, etc., you can make. So there are two things to it: processing the data and then representing that data. The representing the data goes under visualization, and there are various tools for visualization. You can start with Google Charts. Just go to Google and type there Google Charts, and it will show you a lot of things. In fact, that Google chart gives you its programming code also. You just need to change and put your data, and it will generate certain things for you. That is for elementary level. If you want to go for professional level, then I suggest that you go to Hadoop technologies. Let me type it here, HADOOP. Those Hadoop softwares. It is a bouquet of various systems which allows you to make use of these analytics. These are the specialized package. But if you are using, suppose if you, I don't know if you are in any educational institution, if you are in an educational institution, if you are using some learning management system, various learning management system like Google Classroom, Moodle, these are the examples, Schoology, Edmodo, there are various examples of learning management systems. Most of the learning management systems, they also have an inherent component of getting log reports to generate those analytics, because they capture the data. And there is in the older times, we used to call it as Tin Can API, TINCAN API. But nowadays we call it as XAPI, Experience Application Package Interface, XAPI. Dr. Kafui has also pasted one link on learning analytics software. You can go through it. This XAPI is very powerful. You can, even if you are creating your PDF documents, which you are uploading on your server, you need to add certain statements, and as soon as the students, they will open your document, it will send certain statements to the LRS, Learning Records Source there. And when you examine those, then you can make an analysis of how your students have interacted with your content. And that content can be your text content, audio content, video content, whatever it can hold. Although it needs, it works very well with Articulate Storyline, which is a authoring tool for e-learning content. And then you can, make, although if you have some knowledge of, say like JavaScripts or those kind of simple programming tools, it will make your life easy. Otherwise, you can take the help of some IT person to take care of that. I hope.
Thank you so much. You have very explained that very well. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
And it also depends on what exactly you want to do, whether you want to predict or whether you want to describe. So some of the issues you need to consider also include these things. Thank you.
Any questions? Let us see if there are any questions coming up in the YouTube. Okay. So if there are no more questions, friends, you are welcome to post your questions in our WhatsApp groups also. We will keep it activated for means just 1 or 2 days, because these were the temporary groups. After that, we will close them. We created just them for this webinar so that the instructions can be shared with them, because sending emails in large, sometimes the software nowadays, they are very strict. And that's also another aspect of analytics. If you use, unless you have a business plan, and if you send mass emails, they may think that you are marketeer and your account can be, seized by the company because they think that you are doing something else which is not required of your normal account like that. So, but that's why we created these groups for you. And okay, may I request Professor Amol now to say a few words, and then we will conclude the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kafui, for an excellent presentation. And I would just quickly say what were key takeaways from me, because there were many new things that I learned today. I felt that when we are using learning management systems, they also generate a lot of data and they are key locations of that data. The important thing is how then we go back to that data and try to make sense. And as you rightly pointed out, we can use the data either to look back in the past and understand what happened and analyze it and diagnose issues from that. Or we can also use that data to look towards the future and try to predict what might happen and how it might be ensured that it happens. So either way, it's very valuable for teachers and learners. But probably you have repeated it a few times during your session that it's extremely important to ask the right kind of questions. Because if we don't ask the right questions, then it's very, very unlikely that we'll reach the right kind of answers. Or in Professor Sharma's words, we may not derive any knowledge or wisdom if we are not asking the right questions. So that has been a very, very useful and informative session, and thank you so much for this session.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Amol. And my good friend, Mr. Prakash is here. Prakash, would you like to share your experience? Because I know that you were doing some work with R language. I know that your camera is not working, but you can unmute yourself and say a few words. Okay, it looks like the system is not working. So friends, thank you so much. And we look forward to your active participation in our future programs also. Please stay tuned. And we will be issuing you the certificates of your participation. Kindly just, if you have not so far marked your attendance into the link, please do it so now. And be in touch. You know our email ID, elearning@aud.ac.in, which was sent into the message. And we will try to share for these kind of useful and relevant programs with you in the future. And again, I would like to thank Dr. Kafui. Thank you so much. And my friends, actually, I think I can share it now. I'm very happy to share with all of you that we have got a very good response from our colleagues. Like there are some friends from Argentina, Bangladesh, Botswana, Ghana, Indonesia, Kenya, Korea, Malaysia, Nepal. Professor Ruma is here, Nigeria, Pakistan, Peru, as far as, and you know, in Peru, it is early morning, very early morning now. Sri Lanka, Tanzania, and Uganda. So many people from these countries also they are with us now. Some are in Zoom session, and some of them are in the on the YouTube live channel. So yeah, Tanzania, yes, my colleagues are there. So thank you all for joining us. And I would like to place my heartfelt thanks to Professor Amol. He is really a wonderful person and a big support to us in all our endeavors. We just need to share our idea and he will immediately, you know, say that, yes, it is workable, let's go about it. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your, I'd also like to say my good brothers, Mukesh ji and Ramesh, who are, you don't see them because they are at the back end in the IT department. They are helping us in managing these electronic sessions so wonderfully. Mr. Dinesh ji, who is our IT director, and Ashutosh, my all IT services department colleagues. Thank you everyone. Okay, bye everyone. And now we can close the session.
All right, bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, take care.